Marketers and humans like data because it's easier to measure and deal with. It's a lot harder to deal with user research compared to data. As a result, a good number of marketers want to learn how to do JavaScript. A good number of marketers want to spend their time in analytics. A good number of marketers want to learn how to code. And I have very strong opinions about that. I love data, but at the same time, I always tell our marketers, it's fine. I can get a developer to do this code, and their code is going to be so much more beautiful than any code that you write as a marketer. And this is the case for 99% of the marketers. Give me the human analysis, because that is what matters the most to me. Data can fail you, and you can have problems when it comes to data. I always think the very first thing that you need to do as you're looking at data, you want to ask a fundamental question, and you should do it in regular intervals, at least once a year. And that question is the data accurate? Very critical question. So critical and so basic that sometimes we skip asking it. Nothing worse than relying on data for 2-3 months and somebody says, actually, well, the data is inaccurate. We've known about this problem for a while, but we just never got to fixing it. That just kills the discussion. Other thing that you want to think about, there's inputs and then there's outputs when it comes to data. Whenever you're doing data analysis, you need to come to the data and you need to come to it with questions. You should not come to it with preconceived notions. I already know how my visitors are interacting. I just need to look at analytics to prove that point. If you do that, you're going to end up with lots of problems, lots of trouble, as opposed to, well, I wonder how people are interacting with this page. I wonder which of my funnels are working really well and which ones are not working really well. Coming at it with questions, I think that is very, very important. You also have to understand you're coming with questions. It's going to provide you with hints and directions, but it doesn't give you full answers. If you're thinking that you're going to look at data and it's going to explain to you why a behavior is happening, no, it doesn't. You have to listen to data carefully and try and decipher what people are telling you, but you always have to complement data and what it told you with visitor and user research to understand the why. The other side is the output of your data. I have seen data analysts that can slice and dice the data in so many different ways, and they can give you whatever point you like. I can segment the data enough. I can look at this particular segment and I can prove a certain point. Data is trouble in that case. What you need to do is you need to say, okay, well, here is the output. What are the questions this output provided me? And what is this next set of questions that I should be looking at? So again, I think smart experimentation, smart conversion optimization always starts with very smart questions and ends up with even smarter or more amazing questions. And then finally, it is very critical to understand when it comes to data. It's always about what are the actionable insights from that data. Volumes and volumes of data is a pain. Actionable data, on the other hand, absolutely love it. Sometimes people run experimentation and then they look at the result of the experiment and they're like, well, let's go ahead and segment those results. Let's see for this particular experiment how our top 10 different traffic sources, how they performed. Google Organic has performed really well. People come from Google Paid didn't do also well. Email is great. Facebook is not so great. I love this analysis, but I'm always asking the question, so what? Oh, well, we know this. I'm like, okay, well, what are the actionable insights? Because you've tested, you have a winner. What do we do? Where they're like, okay, well, for people coming from Google, we're going to show them this variation. And for people coming from Facebook, we're going to show them this variation. And people coming from email, we're going to show them a third variation. Great. So that's going to help us improve conversions. So now for this particular page, we try to personalize it based on where people are coming from. So now we're running a second experiment. We're adding more complexity because now we have other different segmentation. And by the third or fourth experiment that you're running in segmentation, your CTO or your technical team are looking at you and like, what? Now we have 17 different versions of the page based on the offer that we're doing. Not very useful. There's some software that can help you do that, but most companies don't benefit from that. To finish the point, data is a very critical component. You should use it. You should just come at it correctly. I'm always fascinated by data. I spend quite a bit of time looking at data. I spend a lot of time in analytics, whether it's Google Analytics or Amplitude or Heap. Those are kind of the 3 different platforms that I find myself spending the most time. As fascinated as I am with data, I'm always using it to say, you know what, this is an interesting behavior. Let's do some user research on top of that to find out more insights.